Welcome to a special episode of the Quantum Ogre Cast, where I will be speaking with an array of game masters, all affiliated with the free online con Crit, or Community Run Infinite Tabletop. But before we start, I want to mention that there will be links down below with information and places to sign up for Crit, which will be featuring a slew of indie TTRPGs, everything from Crown and Skull to Easy D6, and I myself might be running a few games of ShadowDark, though by the time this airs, my tables might be filled up, so grab them while you can. So, this episode, I wanted to open up the conversation to our esteemed game masters from across the realm and talk about their experiences with tabletop games and some of the things that brought them to this awesome, community-led, completely free event. Typically, I open things up with a quantum character sheet, but this time around, we're going to do something a little different. We enter the realm of the Quantum Quest. Welcome, Tater, to the Quantum Quest. Together, with the help of our friends, you will pass the torch, so to speak, as we delve deep into the dungeon of the Quantum Quest. Okay, so this will be like a gut reaction answer to the following prompt. So you ready, Tater?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Your journey, Tater, begins at the threshold to a yawning subterranean portal, the entrance barred by an unyielding portcullis. Beyond the bars, you see the silhouette of a fellow human, Merlitron. The gap is wide enough for you to pass a single item to your wayward companion. What do you hand them?
If he's on the other side of this portcullis, I simply reach into my pack and hand him a bottle of water, a water skin, if that's all that's available. But I pass it to him through the bars and say, "You may need this more than I will, friend, on your journey into the dark."
Merlitron grabs up the water skin greedily, disappearing into the shadows of the subterranean halls. Will it be enough to guide them safely through the mountain's hallowed depths? Stay tuned to find out. So we want to say welcome, Tater. He's one of our game masters that's going to be participating in Crit. And I usually like to start things off with like a topical TTRPG question. So, what systems are you running for Crit?
This year, a Xeno Dead Zone reskin of Index Card RPG. Essentially you're playing aliens. You are a group of commandos. Oh yeah, it's straight up classic game over, man. All the whole kit and caboodle. But yeah, so that's like the first game I'm running. I'm opening that up on I think like the early bird night or something. I think I'm doing that Friday or Saturday. I have to double check.
That's awesome. I just watched Alien Romulus the other day, so it's fresh in my mind. Such a good movie.
Truth be told, I'm a little behind on some of the Alien movies. I still have like the classic 3 in my head. But outside of Xeno Dead Zone, the next one I'm running will be Viking Death Squad, one of Brandon's kind of unsung heroes, I feel like, in his TTRPG creations. But yeah, it's always a fun, wild, wacky, heavy metal time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just picked that one up. I went to PageCon and actually stopped by the store, and he had a copy of it. So I was like, oh, this one's usually kind of hard to get. So
but yeah, it's a fun game, fun system. It's all like D6s, and it gets pretty wacky. But yeah, it's all kind of flavor over mechanics. So it's all just kind of like embracing your metalocalypse inner self and just going full metal with it. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really excited me the most when I first heard about Crit was that, really we've got some interesting, somewhat less known games, even among, popular indie RPGs that a lot of people are running in this.
Yeah, it's a great spread. I mean, I know this all kind of birthed out of the Index Card RPG community. And I mean, just with that alone, there's enough diversity of worlds and themes that you can run. But yeah, people are pulling out, Dungeon Crawl Classics. People are playing, I think there's people maybe even playing Morkborg. There's a few people doing ShadowDark, of course. Kelsey's in the family, so her game's going to get repped. Of course, DM Scotty with Easy D6.
Oh, yeah.
I think, but yeah, they seem to get more and more diverse every year. So I love it. I'm loving people bringing all the indie games out.
Yeah, that's what my channel is all about, and I'm glad to see it and support it. And it's going to be an awesome little con online, and like I said before, absolutely free. So I'm really looking forward to it. And that brings me to another question for you, which is, what was your first TTRPG you ever ran?
First one I ever ran was Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition for some friends in high school.
Nice.
Yeah, I got into D&D in high school. So like early. Like I graduated in '02, so around '02, yeah, third edition had kind of been out for a little bit, and I had started learning Dungeons and Dragons and during like second edition era. It had already been out, and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, because that's what my friend's dad had. He had all of his old books from the '70s and '80s and stuff. And so third edition came out. I played in a campaign of that, and then towards the end of my senior year of high school, I got some friends together, my small little ostracized group of gaming nerds, and I ran like this little hodgepodge kind of. I don't even remember what it was. It was something probably in like one of the really adventure splat books. I honestly can't remember. It's been so long, but yeah, it was Dungeons and Dragons third edition. Ran like a little 5-session little mini campaign. I think I pulled a lot from Sunken Temple. Yeah, it was a good time. It was fun, and then after that, took a long break. I didn't really get back into TTRPGs again until like my 30s.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. I also was a third edition, well, I guess 3.5 technically, but I always like to hear people's journeys of like how they got to where they are, and for you, like what ultimately pulled you towards Crit and made you choose the games that you're running now.
Well, I mean, the ICRPG community is just feverish in a sense of just being very super supportive. And I remember when they did Rune Jammer the first year, I was like, oh man, that's a brilliant idea. And I got to play in some games and it was hella fun. And I was just like instantly like, yeah, I want to play. I want to run some games. I want to participate. Yeah, it's just the community, the showcasing of stuff, and the just giving a chance for people to finally. Yeah, it's an online con, so it's a way for people to get all that gaming in they maybe don't get to get in on their normal daily schedules, and it's a great way for me to meet new players and stuff like that. I mean, I met you last year when you were in my Crown and Skull
Yeah,
game.
that's right. That was my first time ever playing Crown and Skull. It was a ton of fun. I jumped in. Yeah, you were an awesome game master, and that game was wacky and out of control. And I'm pretty sure by the end, we should have all been possessed by aliens, but somehow you curbed us back into the right direction. So props to you.
I appreciate that very much. Yeah, those fungi are no joke. Yeah, it's great. I love. I also I think big draw to Crit, and not only that, it's free and it allows people to try a bunch of new games, but it allows new players to come into the fold when they maybe would not get a chance to try so many games. And it's it's also in the summertime, so a lot of people generally kind of maybe have the more free time to do it, and we try to offer it all hours of the day, even if you're in European time, if you're whatever part of the globe you're in. Or if you're just a night owl, or you're an early bird like me, like my alarm goes off at like 4, sometimes 5 a.m. So yeah, most of my games are during the day or early evenings. But with Crit, I mean, we're going all out 24/7, baby. Like we're just going till the wheels fall off, or 7 days later, whichever comes first.
Yeah. I mean, like for me, I've got a 2-year-old, so trying to squeeze in games is always an after hours thing. So
for sure.
Yeah. No, it's great. It works really well for me personally. And I'm looking forward to the games I'm running. Looking forward to hopefully playing a few. And we'll keep moving things along because we got quite a few guests to cover today. So I do want to say thank you again, Tater. You've been an awesome guest. Is there any sessions you want to shout out that you need to fill in or anything like that?
They're also kind of chipping away here slowly but surely. I mean, be sure if you guys are wanting to play some Aliens vibe, search and destroy and hopefully survive at the end type of mayhem. Look for my game on the early bird weekend. I believe it's either Friday or Saturday. It's one of the first game days. It's up. It's slowly filling up. I think I only have like 2 more seats left, maybe 1 more at this point. And then my Viking Death Squad game will be filling up, but it's never too early to sign up, y'all. These seats will fill up the closer we get to June.
Yep. Yeah. Well, awesome. Thanks for being here. And you heard it here, folks. Go sign up for some games, and we'll see next what Merlitron does with your water skin. So stay tuned. Tater has just passed you a water skin, and so slowly you descend the labyrinthine halls, twisting ever downward into the heart of the great mountain, until at last you happen upon a spiked gap in the floor. Far on the opposite side, the glowing eyes of a creature stare back at you. Merlitron, what creature do you see?
Displacer Beast.
A displacer base, a fascinating choice. Okay. So the creature beckons for you with one of its tentacles for the item you hold, the water skin. In your mind, you hear a promise to finish the job if you can lend them your item. Hesitantly, you toss the item over the gap, watching the creature disappear into the cobbled halls beyond. All right, and so we have another guest here on the Quantum Ogre Cast, the one, the only, the Merlitron. How's it going?
Oh, it's going well. I'm so glad to join you here, Jorban Elder Goblin.
Yes, it is me, the man of many random titles that are non sequitur and make no sense.
Those are the best.
So everybody is excited who's listening to this, hopefully, is excited for Crit. And the first thing I'm going to launch us off with is what systems are you running for Crit?
4 systems. I'm running ICRPG with a ninjas hack that I
Ooh.
wrote. I am also running Grit, which is a rules light fantasy RPG written and illustrated by Jeremy by Gnomebot Studios. But Gnomebot Studios, it is an awesome game made for one shots and like mini campaigns.
Hmm.
Just sings as a system, and we're gonna have so much fun playing that. It's gonna be kind of a horror survival
Okay.
scenario. Then I'll be running the Wax Cylinder in Electric Bastion Land. Uh,
Ooh.
Electric Bastion Land is a like an OSR game, kind of a dungeon crawler, but the setting is like if you combined Terry Gilliam's movie Brazil with Labyrinth.
Mm. Yeah, I've heard people speak highly of it. In fact, I had Yochai Gall on. I have not played it personally, but it sounds like a really cool like setting and world and system.
It is it's a little hard to wrap your brain around because space and time in Electric Bastion Land do not work exactly how they work in reality, but it's it's really neat, and it's a no like two hit rolls system where you have 1d6 hit points and most weapons do 1d6 points of damage, so whoo boy, the fights go fast.
Yeah, so I'm guessing the object there is to not get in too many fights if you can help it.
More or less, don't get in a fight or get like set things up so that you are in a pitched battle, because if you end up flat-footed, uh things go south real fast.
Yeah. That's very like Into the Odd and Mouse Ritter too, which I'm
Yeah,
sure.
it's sort of the sequel to Into the Odd.
I think even in Mouse Ritter, there's like one of the bullet points says something like rolling dice is dangerous, avoid whenever possible.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, and one of the reasons why I got it is because Chris McDowell, who made Into the Odd and Electric Bastion Land and several other games, just writes really succinctly and some
Mhm.
really excellent GM advice.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, if you haven't checked out either of those games, Into the Odd or Electric Bastion Land, highly recommend them, especially the GM advice, like you said, very concise, but like full of really rich stuff to hold on to. It's just yeah, really well written.
Oh yeah, well, and they've got so many like weird items in them. It's just great. I steal them just without remorse. And
That's
they're
what we
so
do
good.
here. We shave off the serial numbers in all games and we
Yeah.
pretend that we own them.
And then the last game I'm running is The Princess is Missing, Easy D6, another system which just like chef's kiss
Yeah.
uh gets right out of the way. There's just something about like when you're setting a DC on a D20, it can feel very fiddly. You're like, well, should it be 12 or 14? I don't know. When you just have like 6 choices, it suddenly just crystallizes in your
Oh
mind
yeah.
very easily.
Yeah, I love I'm growing to really love games that have a set DC. For that reason, like you said, it can be very arbitrary to just kind of choose a DC. But when they're baked in a game like Easy D6, you roll your dice, you keep things moving, you have a good time, you know?
Yeah. And the magic is wild. The characters are all like capable, but none of them have the problem of like high level D&D characters where they're too sturdy to be like scared of normal things.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it hits a nice sweet spot. And the adventure is one that I have run in person before, but have never run in a virtual way. And so I'm looking forward to that. It's gonna be fun.
Well, awesome. We got an overachiever here running 4 different games for Crit. That's a lot to hold in your brain. It's a lot of different systems and rules, but I applaud you for the effort.
You know, variety is the spice of life.
Yeah, that's what they say anyway. But then here I am playing ShadowDark all 4 times in my games. I have a 2-year-old, so I looked at the schedule. I knew my own brain and capacity, and I was like, you know what? Let's just run the game I'm already running 4 times with different
It
adventures.
gets better. About 4 years, you'll be able to like
Okay.
sleep regularly again.
Yeah,
Hold
it's good to
things
know
in your
there's some kind of light at the end of the tunnel, even if it's a train coming at me. Well, here's a
and
fun question for you. Do you have a game that you have like a favorite meta currency or like a special way it gets handed out or used or anything like that?
gosh. The Waste is Not Kind has uh, a meta currency in it, which I think is called Grit, but it's not the game Grit because
Right,
it's
right.
it's an ICRPG hack. But instead of having like the hero coins, you start off with a bowl of these D6s that anyone in the party can, when they need to boost a roll, like pull one out and add it to their roll. Uh,
Okay.
that in and of itself is fine. Like that works perfectly well. Where it works for me, I don't have to remember to hand things out. But the wild and awesome thing that the creator did was there's also a thing in the game called adrenaline, which you add your adrenaline score, which can go from 1 to 10 or 0 to 10 to that bonus d6.
Mm.
But when your adrenaline reaches 10, you suffer like a psychotic break. You roll on the madness table and you do something crazy and stupid.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, what's funny is I'm getting a message from the future, and I think Torn ends up talking about Grit in his little mini segment here. Um, but we're all out of time is a weird soup, right? So
Yeah, well,
yeah.
you know, dealing with the space-time continuum to do these interviews with magical artifacts, that can really shake things up. That gets weird.
All right. Well, we are coming up on time here, so I do want to ask one more question before we move on to our next guest. But what games are you most excited about, or what ones are you hoping to fill a few seats on?
I think I'm maybe most excited about running Grit for the first time. Uh, I've had some fun playing it. I've really enjoyed seeing the book and its weird, awesome art, and I'm excited to try my hand at it.
Yeah, man, that sounds like a cool one. Maybe since Crit is all about trying new games, maybe I'll have to try that one out because I'm very interested.
Hell yeah, dude!
With the water skin in tow, you venture forth down cobblestone tunnels carved of dwarvish make. Alcoves in the wall hold a variety of cantrip scrolls tied to strings high above. Which scroll do you choose?
Okay. Can't go wrong with Mage Hand.
Mage Hand, excellent choice.
Yeah.
So then, after you grab this scroll, abruptly the hall collapses beneath your feet, sending you sliding towards a dark subterranean lake. In the reflection of the still waters, you see your strange new form looking back. It's the last thing you see before you plummet into the frigid waters below. All right, so that's our little fun adventure intro here. But now we have one of our other crit GMs to talk to you today, and this is Lawson. Lawson, how you doing?
I'm doing great, fam. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. What games have you been jamming on lately?
So lately, I've been mostly playing an index card RPG. I am in a 5e game
Nice.
that's weekly, and those are the main two. I haven't
Are you running any of those in crit?
Yes, I will be running index card RPG and crit.
Nice.
In my pirate setting that is adjacent to One Piece.
So we get a little sneak peek maybe into some of your games. There's going to be like some pirate themes, maybe some boat-to-boat combat action or anything like that?
Yeah, I think in one of them is more specifically like that. Definitely.
Well, I'm looking forward to Crit. It's such a unique kind of con. I mean, there's so many cons that focus on the big two, D&D, Pathfinder, things like that. But one of the things that I just really appreciate about Crit is the diversity of games that you can play and sign up for. So what drove you to Crit in the first place? Like, how did you end up getting involved as a game master?
So I the last 2 years of it was previously called Rune Jammer. I set the record for how many of those I attended both years, I think.
Oh man, that's awesome.
I think 2 years ago I played in 14 games, and last year I
Wow.
played in 16. The nature of my schedule is very I kind of make my own schedule, so I was able to just set that whole week aside for playing games.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
yeah.
I only got to play 2 games last year. I actually played with Tater, who we just interviewed before, and I played my first Crown and Skull games as part of, Rune Jammer last year, but Crit this year. So that's an awesome system. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I still haven't played Crown and Skull yet. I one of my GMs and who I play with, Torn, who I assume will be on this soon.
Yeah.
He uses like the phase system when he
Mm.
runs ICRPG, so I know about that, but I don't really. Oh, and I have used the randomized dungeon thing.
Okay,
'Cause that's fun.
the mapless dungeons. That's a
Mapless
fun one.
dungeon. Yeah, it's very cool system.
Yeah, there's a lot of really neat concepts in Crown and Skull. I feel like it didn't get the attention it deserves. It's a really interesting game.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, let's see. How long have you been playing role-playing games?
I guess about a decade.
Oh, wow.
As D&D 5e came out in 2013, I think. Or was it 2012?
2013 or 14. Actually, I guess it's
Okay.
2014 because that's what we're differentiating the rules on now.
Right. That's what the 10 years after is D&D 2024, I guess. Yeah. So 2014, so then a friend of mine was like, I'm going to teach me and a couple other friends. I'm going to teach you guys how to play Dungeons and Dragons in like early 2015, I want to say. And
Okay.
that was the first time I played. It was a lot of fun. And then like the more I played it, the more I was like, yeah. So I was like, I wonder if there's other like games like this, but that don't get as like bloated at the higher levels. Because I really like playing the low level games. And then I would notice like as soon as the party got to a certain level, it would be less fun. So that's actually how I found Index Card RPG right around 2019, 2020, maybe.
Yeah.
Around the turn of the decade. And at the time I was running 5e West Marches game that I was like really proud of and put a lot of work into. It was kind of like my magnum opus to that point. Because I was able to play with like 18 different friends of mine.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's quite a group.
Yeah, and like they all got, I got to bring all those people together, and that was a lot of fun. And there was some drama too, but that was kind of part of it, And
Yeah, with a group that
so,
big, you're going to run into something at some point.
but it was really successful generally. And then right off of that, I had run so much 5e at that point that I was like, I needed like something new. And then I feel like I found ICRPG at just the right time, and that
Yeah,
kind of opened me up to looking at all the other systems out there.
Yeah, I feel like no matter what game you kind of start with, you kind of hit a wall at a certain point where you're just ready to try something new,
Yeah.
And ICRPG definitely can open up the world to all kinds of different styles of play. So So here's a kind of a curveball question for you. What is an underrated rule or mechanic from any TTRPG that you think more folks should know about or use?
Man, that's good. Everyone I play with uses this, but I feel like this is only a thing in this system. The best thing that ICRPG does, I think, is the target number.
Yeah.
I think the target number is so good, and I don't think it's the type of thing where, like, when you explain it, at least I remember when I first saw it, I definitely kind of like bristled at it. I was just like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, everybody has the same armor class or whatever. Like, it's kind of weird, but it makes the game go so much smoother. Like,
Yeah, no,
every system where, like, the enemies have different ACs. I get the mystery and that's fun or whatever, but like the players just rolling, being like, "Oh, yeah, I succeeded." Okay, and it's just so good.
no, you're absolutely right. I think it's one of those things that is better in practice than it even looks on paper because, like you said, you
Yeah.
might be scratching your head and going like, okay, everything in this room is a 14. What does that even mean? But then when you actually sit down to play it, you're like, all right, we are cooking with gas. Like this game is moving.
Yes.
It is really an underrated rule and mechanic. And if you haven't played ICRPG out there and you're listening, give it a try. There's some really brilliant stuff going on in that book, some awesome GM tools and tips, and just little
Yeah.
things, Easter eggs like that. Like, such a great rule. But yeah.
I really do feel like almost any D20 rollover, or even roll under, you can go opposite, I guess,
Yeah.
could, at times at least, benefit from using like a target, because like the players, they still get that like surge feeling when they succeed. Like,
Mhm.
instead of them rolling and then looking at you, and then you got to look at the thing, and then you're like,
Right.
yeah, you hit, and then like, yay, a delayed gratification, whatever. They still
Yeah.
get that gratification when they roll. They just see it and they know. And the other thing that happens with the target is, like, when you raise it a lot and they see it's like, oh, it's target 17 here, and they're like, oh god, okay.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sense of dread that comes over them, it's just, yeah, it's really dynamic and really useful.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point too, which is like, them being able to see that number gives them something to shoot for too. So if you're suddenly deciding this is a harder mob and you add 3 to that number, everyone's kind of on the edge of their seat going, all right, well, I got to bust out all my good moves now because it's do or die. That we're cranking up the
Yeah.
DC here, and yeah, it could be a really good tension mechanic.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my number one pick. I think that's the best mechanic ICRPG introduced.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
I 100% steal that and use it in a lot of other games, so it's a great one.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I wish I wish I had a more nuanced answer to that, but I really
No,
don't.
no, it's perfect because some of the people that will listen to this might have never played index card RPG and might be curious. So
Yeah. The thing about it is, because it's so infinitely hackable, it's for the GMs that like to homebrew and like to
Mm.
get their hands in the design, which I really like to do. And so for me, there's no compare. Like, it's just
Yeah, no,
I can
absolutely. I think Hankerin even designed it. He'll say in his own words as the DIY D&D or like the DIY
yeah,
of role playing games. So you're absolutely right.
100%. Yeah. I was introducing a new group of players to, I guess Index Card RPG, and because they had played 5e originally,
Yeah.
just a couple times, and I gave them like my campaign pitches, the Matt Colville idea, where it's like, I'm not just going to decide what we play, you guys can vote on it, and
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
sent them all these different genres, and they were like, wait, you can run all these systems in D&D? And I was like, well, it's not exactly D&D. Like, I told them, it was like, it's like D&D. You roll a D20. It's kind of the same, but,
Yeah,
and they were
yeah. It's
like,
D&D with the serial numbers shaved off.
yeah, exactly. It's a lowercase D&D. So,
Yeah, and that's
um,
one of the great things about that book too, is like you look in the back and there's great examples of worlds for all those things you named. Everything from like,
yeah.
cyberpunk to Weird West,
Mm,
It's
yeah.
just it's really malleable. It's a great game.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'll do a little outro here and just say, thank you, Lawson, so much for showing up and being on here and being one of our GMs for Crit.
hmm
And yeah, let's roll some dice for Crit.
Hell yeah.
You, Torn, find yourself on the shore of a subterranean lake. You see a small basket tied to a string. Floating nearby is a scroll of Mage Hand. You reach into your bag to find your calligraphy set, and there's just enough room on the scroll to jot down a short message of warning to your allies before sending over your supplies. What 3 words do you etch onto the back of the scroll?
Avoid the water.
Avoid the water. Wise words. Your basket ready, you tug on the string, and you watch as your hopes drift across the dark waters. Welcome, Torn, to the Quantum Ogre Cast. What was your first TTRPG?
As many people, it was D&D 5e, specifically a public library game, which is an experience I think everyone should
Oh.
have at least once, where it's very like open table. Storylines are kind of loose at best. It's very much like you show up, you game, you leave. You become friends with the people if there's enough consistency, but it is very like it informs a lot of things if you know me with like
Yeah,
how yeah.
that's fascinating, and I have never heard of anyone playing in a library D&D game. So now I'm really
Yeah.
curious to know if my local library does this. I'd be Yeah.
Like both of the towns I've lived in as a nerd have had public library games.
Huh. Okay, this is something new I'm gonna have to check out. So I may know the answer to this, but what games have you been jamming on lately?
I've been doing one shots with Mythic Prehistory, and I'm gonna start a new like a game at a local LGS, like a game store, in a
Oh,
couple
nice.
weeks. And I'm still like it'll be an ICRPG of some sort, but I'm not sure what yet.
That's awesome. Yeah, I find that like with a lot of the FLGSs, there's usually a big 5e presence, which makes sense. There might be a big Pathfinder presence,
Yeah.
but games like ICRPG, Crown Skull, ShadowDark, you never really see a lot of organized play for.
This is really interesting. This is specifically a card game focused shop.
Okay.
Like they just have card games, except that I asked and I was like, "Hey, can I run D&D here?" And they went, "Sure." And I was
That's
like, "Cool, yeah."
Oh man, that's great. Yeah, starting up your own local RPG scene.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I applaud it. Yeah, I've been kind of thinking of doing something like that myself because there's all the big names, but I really want to get like some of these smaller indie games out to people. And
Yeah.
one way to do that is just walk down to your FLGS and say, "Hey, put a game on the board, and I'll
Yeah.
run it." So that's awesome. Well, okay. So for Crit, you're running 4 and
Yep.
playing in
8.
Wow, running in 4, playing in 8. So
Yep.
total of 12 games. That's some commitment. I think Lawson was saying I think he played in like 18 games or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it was insane.
Okay, here's a good one for you, Torn. I've played in some of your games, but
Yeah.
for people who might be, looking at Crit, deciding what kind of games they want to play in, what is your GM style like?
Board games with theatrics. That's like torn in the tagline. My thing is always like I want it to be easy to get into. I want it to be action heavy. I want you to be able to sit down at that moment if you have to and pick a character and like maybe fill in some stuff, probably not. I want you to be able to just I'm a big fan of pre-gen, so I use pre-gens a lot.
Just to complement your style, I've played in a few of your games at this point, and you have killer pacing. Like you get your session done within 3 hours, period.
2.
Or yeah, 2. Yeah, a lot of those were 2-hour games. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and like they move. Like you get to have an entire story within 2 hours and feel like you accomplished your adventure that you're running. So that's something not a lot of GMs have.
Yeah. I think that's one of those creative things that just come from the library game. Was we had 3 hours every night at a giant table and not much backstory stuff, and we would often joke around a lot. So like the pacing of I never ran those. It was just the pacing. My pacing brain is built in such a way because of that. That like I'm not trying to tell this giant story. I'm just trying to get a couple beats in.
Yeah. No, I think it really works. And, that first game I played with you guys in I want to say it was like a library or a
Easton
manor.
Grim Manor, the
Yeah,
library.
Eastern Grim Manor. I loved how you had the map set up on the side with each of the rooms, and it was kind of like almost like a board game in that way, where we'd move room to room, and we were trying to avoid. I won't spoil the whole thing, but trying to avoid the bad guys, so to speak. And it just flowed really well, I thought. Well, if in the future you end up publishing it, folks can look out for that game, because it's a really cool, like a one shot, a really great way to get players into like ICRPG, or if you end up publishing your own game at that time, we'll see. But yeah, people can look for that Isengrim.
Isengrim Manor.
Yeah, Isengrim Manor, and it's just also a compliment to your style for those out there who might be looking to fill in some crit games or interested in playing something a little different. Everyone has their own twist on how they like to GM, and your games move quick. There's that board game like aspect to them. So I think I know the answer to this, but what would you say has been your most influential game as a GM?
Darkest Dungeon. I was just trying to think
Ooh,
of, yeah. Darkest
Darkest
Dungeon
Dungeon.
is the video game.
A man after my own heart. I love that game.
Yeah. Have we talked about this? I feel like we've talked about this.
Yeah, maybe briefly, but yeah, I love
Okay.
Darkest Dungeon.
Video game, definitely. I actually like the second one more than the first one.
Now that you mention Darkest Dungeon, I see the connection between your Isengrim map and Darkest Dungeon. It's a clear line there. That's awesome. Since we're kind of touching on Darkest Dungeon and some of your influences and things, it came up when I was talking to Lawson that you tend to use the phases from Crown and Skull in your ICRPG games. Do you plan on using that in any of the games you run for Crit?
Oh, 100%. I don't know that I'll ever go back to like Clockwork Initiative or anything.
Yeah.
I just like it more.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's so snappy,
Yeah.
You pick a spot, monsters go on their spots, and yeah, that's it.
Well, I actually have incorporated an initiative roll into it, which is D6. You go on that phase, but a 6 lets you choose.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yep, that's a little bit of your own twist on it. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I was gonna ask this question, but I think I already know your answer because we just kind of talked about it. But one of the questions I've been throwing out is, what is an underrated rule or mechanic from any TTRPG that you think more folks should know about or use?
What a good question. I have two, actually, I think. First one is phases are really good. I think more people should at least try them. Second one is like something like Grit or Resolve or just kind of general Surge Dice is another one. They're just kind of like meta currency points that you can use in different ways. They're a big ICRPG thing. The third thing, which is kind of weirdly goes against the Resolve Dice and stuff, is I've become a big fan of resources that build up as you play and not go down as you play. I'm still experimenting with these, but
that's kind of the draw steel idea.
That's the
right?
draw steel idea. Yeah, is that you're dealing with attrition in health and some other resources, but your powers aren't getting weaker, and you're not expending powers. You're actually like later in the fight, you're able to use more.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of potential for it.
Yeah, those are all great choices. And real quick though, explain Grit kind of for those who might not be familiar with it.
So it's a pool of shared D10s that you can spend to improve rolls, ignore damage, take extra actions, break rules in different ways. Like a cleave, you can spend a grit die to do stuff like that. In the Wasting of Kind, there's an additional thing called adrenaline, which goes up and adds to your grit, but eventually you go mad if you have too much.
Yeah, I love Grit as a mechanic. I like to plug it in places where I can, and it's just it's a fun way to like put some power and choice in the player's hands.
Yeah.
Well, cool. That's it for now. We're gonna move on to our next GM, but get out there and roll some crits. Dave, you wait on the shores of the Dark Lake when suddenly a bell rings. You pull the string, waiting in anticipation, as the basket of supplies drifts towards you. You open the basket to find a water skin and a scroll of mage hand with 3 words etched onto it. Avoid the water. Uncertain of their meaning, you turn back toward the rune-covered archway. In ancient Dwarven, the runes read, "Something given for something lost. The path you find rests on the cost. Which of these items you've just been given do you sacrifice to the gate?
The water skin.
The water skin turns to ash as you offer it to the gateway. However, the scroll of Mage Hand teleports through the gateway out of your hands toward your friends waiting on the other side. What will happen next? Stay tuned to find out. So, you said you're running Easy D6, Ironbound, Plaguebound.
Index card RPG.
Okay, index card. Sweet.
Those are the systems I'm running. But then I have different adventures. I have 2 adventures for Plaguebound. I only have 1 adventure for Ironbound. And then I have the 2 adventures for Easy D6. 1 adventure for Easy D6 and 1 adventure for Index card.
Here's a question for you. Since you're a systems guy, do you like writing adventures as well, or do you lean more into like writing?
I hate writing adventures.
You hate it.
Hate writing them.
I was gonna say I feel like you tend to be either one or the other, and not both. You know.
I'm a homebrew guy. I like to just create my adventure and just go. So running an adventure, I feel tied to the map. I feel tied to the characters that have to appear in it. So
yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I've grown more and more into the style where it's just like the adventure's almost bullet points. You know, it gives you a lot of breathing room so that you can end up like still being creative in the moment and not feel, like you said, not feel too bound to what's written on the page.
I have 2 adventures I have to write for the backer kit for Ironbound.
Yeah.
I have not been able to write them yet because I just hate adventures. So like it's just like tying myself to something, and I'm like, no, that's not how I ran these games.
Yeah, I like writing adventures, but I don't have the delusions of grandeur that I'm any good at it. I just enjoy the process of it for some reason, like drawing a map, putting things in rooms.
Okay with that type of event, like writing that type of adventure, but I like to keep my adventures somewhat open for the DM to change things if need be.
Right.
And that makes it a little bit harder when you're not doing the railroading adventure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's just funny. It's like it's rare to meet the person who's like, I love writing TTRPG systems. Oh, and also I'm good at writing adventures in them, you know?
It's just rare that you find somebody that can write a really good adventure and write a good system. I think currently the only person who's actively participating in the industry that can do it is Kelsey.
Yeah. Actually, I'm running quite a few of her adventures for Crit. That's what I landed on. I was just like, if I'm gonna run ShadowDark, might as well take the creator's adventures and run those.
I don't know if I'm in your ShadowDark. I'm in a ShadowDark. I just don't know if it's yours. I don't think it is.
If you're not, seats are filling up quick, so
A lot of people doing ShadowDark though.
cool. I'm glad it still has traction, you know. You never know with like newer games that come out if they're gonna catch on or if they're just gonna kind of dwindle into obscurity.
Yeah, I'm glad. And it couldn't happen to a nicer person. Kelsey is such a nice person.
You know, and it's just dawning on me that we've played a couple of games together as players, but I've never actually played in one of your games. What would you say is your like kind of GM style?
I'm very loosey goosey. I tend to let the players decide where the story is going and what's going on. I will sit there 5 minutes, not say a thing, and let the players figure out what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm that type of DM. I'm definitely more tactical in my DM style than narrative, but I'm getting better at the narrative part of it because of all the streaming.
Yeah. Well, you're playing the right systems for that. I mean, you know, Easy D6, ICRPG. I don't know your system, but those are great ones for like improving on the fly and narrative style play and stuff.
My system's a D12 system that uses a Boon and Bane structure like Easy D6. It has 3 pools in it: physical, arcane, and mental. Those pools are used for abilities. They're used for health, and they're used for boosting the roll, kind of like Karma is.
Man, we should have connected a long time ago because I think we might have written the same game.
Yeah, but mine's published.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm too. I made a video today that went out that is really a statement for myself. It's for me to get off the pot and build
Just
the
do
thing.
it.
Yep. Okay, this is a bit of a weird one, so follow with me. What is an underrated rule or a mechanic from any TTRPG that you think more folks should know about?
Hero dies, or Destiny dies, or whatever you call those. Anything that allows you to reroll. I think they're getting more popular, but I don't think they're utilized correctly.
Mm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, like do you mean like how they're distributed or how they're actually
Yeah,
used?
distributed, not really
Yeah.
used, but how the GM distributes them. And it's one of the things I have a problem with my game, even my system. So in my next version, I'm actually looking to create a mechanic that automatically gives you a hero die instead of the DM having to give them out.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because that's kind of the rub for me is that a lot of systems, if it isn't defined, it ends up just kind of being like GM fiat. Like, oh, you danced for the GM, so you did the thing they like, and now they're going to give you a hero coin. So I do like when there's something specific that's like, here are the methods to gain these coins or these, meta currencies.
And I'm gonna tie it to narrative type driven things. At least that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm
Yeah.
definitely doing that with layers and lizards. I'm introducing introducing what I'm calling hero points. And it's basically a pool that you can do things with. But I'm trying to narratively tie it into things that would be silly for the player to do, such as like having to, after doing a cut, an attack and being successful, having to do a speech about who they are and what they stand for, or something like that.
I love it. Yeah, more games need more well-defined, meta currencies, more hero coins, whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, before we go, are there any sessions that you want to shout out or like ones that you want to get filled that you're excited about and you want to make sure there are more people there to play it?
Yeah, I'm excited for the Love, Death, and Monsters stuff because I think that story is really well written. It has very little combat in it. It's very much a murder mystery type situation. So there's a lot of like narrative driven things for people to do. I have added a lot more combat in it than Avenue Studios has put into it. Um, but because I'm a tactical GM, so that's who I am.
Cool. Well, you heard it here, folks. Thank you for being on here, Dave. It's awesome having you. And yeah, we'll move on to the next guest in line. You rest at the crossroads of 4 elemental doors. An item suddenly appears on the pedestal at the junction's epicenter, a scroll of Mage Hand. Picking it up, you look towards the doors of fire, earth, wind, and water. As you look down at the scroll, you notice 3 words etched onto the back. Avoid the water. You must choose a doorway. Which doorway do you choose?
I'm choosing wind.
As you cross the threshold through the door of pure wind, the world goes black. Stay tuned to find out what happens. Wes, we know each other. We've met a few times. We've played games together. You've run games for me. We've played in games together at places like Page.
Yep.
What kind of impact did your first game master have on you?
My first game master. That's really interesting because my first game master. Now, I have been in the hobby either directly or tangentially since like 1981 because I started with Moldvay Cook Basic and Expert. My cousins had it and I went home and forced my dad to buy it for me. But back in the day, I never had a group to play with. And I didn't I had no concept that solo play was a thing back then. There's no internet. And everybody would just look at me like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll play with you. And like, I never had. So all I did was collect. I think over the course of like my early teens when I was like elementary school to early teens when I was playing or collecting, I might have partly played in one session. Like I barely remember. I remember what it was. It was Marvel superheroes at a friend's house in high school, but we only played like an hour, and then it was like we have to leave. I'm like, okay. So my first game master was the same guy who ran for me in at COVID, who was a friend of mine from college, and we had played one session of 3.5, like back in like the aughts at some point, and I was like, that's cool, and that was my first experience with ascending armor class. Because I was like, oh, armor class goes up now. They're like, yeah. It's like, oh, well, that just is awesome. It's like I thought that was great right from the beginning, and I still miss my charts
the whole time.
Yeah, I still miss my charts because charts are fun. But this is better. And then
this is the way.
This is the way. When COVID hit, I'm a very you wouldn't get this when I'm talking because I'm talking about something that I'm actually interested in, or I'm on the channel doing review. I am an extreme introvert. Like I people when I need to. And I realize that about myself. And the problem is that as much as I'm an extreme introvert, I realize that the more I introvert, the less I am able to actually be around other human beings, which is not a great thing. And I knew that being stuck in COVID, my wife was trying to teach a classroom. I'm trying to pastor the church. We had a 2-year-old at the time, and I'm about to sneeze. My daughter would just graduated. I am definitely going to sneeze. Hold on. No, it's bad. My daughter had just graduated high school. She's working at Chipotle for a time and going to college, like trying to do that online. And then my son was a senior in high school, and he is actually going through a whole bunch of crises of his own. And I'm like, I need something social.
Yeah.
Like I need something that's not family, because I love my family dearly, but 24/7 family with no break and a 2-year-old running around and we're all still trying to work and do stuff. I need a thing that just gets me out of here.
Yeah.
And
COVID taught us all some life lessons, huh?
That's why I got back into the hobby. Like I wanted to for years. I didn't have money or time. And then suddenly I had money and then no time. And then all of a sudden I had time. And so I put out on Facebook, it was like, okay, listen, I need a game. Like I need this. And so we had a bunch of people, a couple people I went to college with, a couple of people I used to run a message board with, and a friend of mine who used to go to church here who had since moved away. So she was on too. And it was my friend from college. That was my first GM.
Oh, wow.
And so he was the one who really kind of drew me back in the hobby. The idea that this could actually be fun. We were playing 5e, so I was still kind of like, even by the time we got done to the end of the campaign, I'm like, why are we all alive? Like, I don't understand. This is weird to me. That shouldn't have happened. When dragons attack,
Mold Bay.
yeah, when dragons attack you with giant king, somebody should have died. Like, I don't understand this. But doing that was like, well, I can tell a story.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm doing GMing. I barely had run the player's handbook. Like when we started, I was so mentally exhausted, and he sent me a PDF of the material. We will not discuss where we got that. And it was like, here, make your character. And I'm looking at it, it's like, I don't know what the hell this is. Like, what is this? This is insane. So my friend Calvin, who's one of the guys who used to run the message board with us, he's like, okay, I'll make it. And here's the decision. So like he made my character. Like he gave me like 3 choices. I'm like, okay, here's what I do. And I ended up playing a paladin.
Nice.
I wanted to play a wizard, but we had a bunch of casters because it's 5e, and they're like, we need someone to heal. I'm like, okay. Realize now I probably should have played the cleric because I think they're a lot more fun than paladins, but
agreed.
I digress. And so that was my start. And so by the time we got done that campaign, or 2/3 of the way through the campaign,
well, here's a real life question for you. If you're already a cleric in real life, then it's not much of a fantasy for you, huh?
Well, no, because the clerics in D&D can like beat the living snot out of things, and that's considered
True.
socially acceptable.
True.
Around here, I had to be like, no, no, no. Let's protest the injustice. You don't beat the snot out of it.
You don't get a +2 one-handed Morningstar.
Yeah, I would really like that sometime. Anyway, so by the time we get halfway through that, and we ran it for about 8 months, that first 8 months of COVID, I'm like, I can do this. I had no idea. Like, I just, because 5e is like you said, a DC.
Yeah.
So, but I have no idea how the scaling works or whatnot. So I muddled my way through and ended up running. I made a one shot. It was my first Hallmark adventure, which was it's basically a D&D campaign or adventure that was set up to work like a Hallmark movie. And
like the one we played at Page.
Yep, that Page. And so I wanted to run that for my neighbors because we're really close with our neighbors, and we were not able to see them for like 8 months. A little longer than that. And so I was like, well, let's do this. So I was running that on one night, and then I was doing my Monday night campaign. And when my neighbors kind of like, yeah, that was fun. We're done now. And the Monday night campaign, we got done. I'm like, well, here, would you like to try this adventure? They're like, sure. And we ended up running that for like 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So that was fun. So my first GM was the guy who really was like, yeah, this is fun. You can do this. Whereas when I think part of the reason why I never played when I was younger is because it's like, well, I can't be the GM. That just is too much responsibility. And by the, when I was, however old I was 5 years ago, 47. I can't believe that. Like I was like, oh no, I can totally do this after shepherding and herding cats for the last 20 years. And that was really kind of cool.
What a through line that your first game master ended up getting you back into the hobby in a way, because you guys ended up playing together through COVID, right?
Yeah, ended up playing through COVID, and he is running a 3-5 adventure because we're running an adventure day at the local brewery here in town. So he's going to run a 3-5 / Pathfinder adventure, and I just play tested it with him awesome. The last couple of Mondays. So I get to play a goblin.
Goblins
it was
are the best.
Fun.
I'm not biased, but goblins are the best.
Yeah, so it was a blast, and he's run games at EcclesiaCon both years, and he ran the Paint and Take mini station this last year, and so yeah, he's had a big impact on me.
That's awesome! Wow, and that's it for time.
Yeah, I'm done. Sorry, I talk a lot.
I just gotta tease you because here's a question, Wes, because I've mostly been in games that you've run. On the chance when you do get to be a player, what kind of player are you?
I have changed over time. I hated failing when I first started. Like it was COVID. And also I was playing a paladin, and if you miss as a paladin, then you wait around for like 40 minutes while all the spellcasters do all their stuff. So it's like, yay, I rolled a 3. I'll just wait here. And everybody's doing all their bonus actions and everything. So I hated missing. Yeah. I could not stand failing when I first started. I would get upset. And I think actually it was the first Exandria Unlimited where Matt Mercer was playing his character with like no intelligence or wisdom at all and just reveled in failing. I'm like, oh no, that could be fun. And so I've just gotten to the point where like, oh yeah, I'm just going to be totally off the wall. I'm just, if I fail, I fail. And it's actually kind of fun. It was very freeing. I think also because, the world was a little bit less on fire, that I could feel okay failing a little bit. Now it's back on fire again, but I'm still okay with failing. So I've kind of changed over time.
That'll definitely like color things differently depending on what's going on in your life and world. Well, definitely, it's like everyone says their first character. There's like a meme. Your first character is like the virtuous paladin superhero version of yourself, and your fourth character is like a sentient sponge riding on a llama's back or something.
My first Moldvay Cook character was a thief.
Nice.
Yeah.
Classic. 4 hit points.
Well, I think he might have had 3. And we're like 8, like going, okay, how do I make this die roll a 6? So we're like, oh yeah, I got like 3 17s, sure, because I'm like flipping the die to like land flat.
Oh, yeah. Well,
kids.
the roles were so impactful in a game like that, you know?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah.
It was
So
do or die, you know? When you only
mhm.
have 3 hit points and a knife and a blanket
Yep.
and a
So but
dream.
I have enjoyed changing my characters, like the types of characters I play.
Yeah.
Like I love speedsters in a
Mm.
superhero genre because they can just be like totally ADHD. So it's just like me on Tuesday, but on steroids, which is a lot of fun. If I'm playing like high fantasy, I love playing snarky wizards. Again, which is another aspect of my personality type, but I get to like amp it up to like 11.
Yeah.
And then I was
Yeah, I've
playing.
played in your games, you know what
Oh
I'm like.
yeah, oh yeah. I was
Pure
playing with
chaos.
I was playing with Dave. He was running a Nuts, which is Scrat's a Squirrel Plays channel.
Mm.
It's his system, and we were playing. We were all playing anthropomorphic squirrels, and I ended up playing a monk, like a nature monk, who was at peace with nature. And I played the monk like she was Miss Piggy. So she'd be like, "Oh, nice and sweet," and then she would hear something. She'd be like, "What are you doing?" And so it was like that was a blast, just to
Nice.
like do that little switch. So those are the types of characters I do like to play.
I
And yes, you're insane because if like
Yeah.
our Cypher Chaos stream, where you went to the fight ring, where no, you were the person with the snake oil.
Yeah, I was the
Like this
snake
will
oil
clean the blood off
salesman.
of this.
I was basically like if Inspector Gadget was a medieval snake oil salesman.
It was perfect. We need to revisit those characters. They were fun.
That was
So
fun. I
yeah.
I I think I said this in a different podcast episode, but I tend to vacillate between um, Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm either like the straight man or I'm just chaos, and I'm
Okay.
never anything in between. And it just depends on the day or like what I've signed up for, or if it's a party full of everyone's already a Deadpool, then I'm going to be Wolverine. That kind of
Okay.
thing. But
I
um,
if I have a trope, I think my character likes to be doing the logical thing, but not look like it.
mm,
Like so speedsters are great for that because they're like all flighty anyway. Or the snarky wizard's just going to point something out, be like, "Okay, no, I'm just going to wait till people see this because it's right there." Like that's kind of like what I like to play. It's just like, what, huh?
I'm
Which
not.
again is kind of my personality type, but I
Yeah,
just play me.
Yeah, I
All the-
mean, don't we all though? We just take some aspect of our personality and like you said, either turn it up 11 or we turn down all the other knobs and we find one thing we haven't explored as much and we turn that up to
We'll
11.
turn that. We'll turn that there. Yes, it's a lot of fun. That's
Well,
good.
cool. Wes, I hate to cut you off because I
We're
know
done.
we
Yeah.
could talk ad nauseum about games of yore and good times. But I will say this before I let you go. Is there a game, since you're running one game, are your seats already filled up or do you want to shout
No,
out your game?
I'm running Sensible Comics RPG. I can actually find my time. Give me a second here. I have 2 players right now. So I am running on Wednesday, June 25th. I am running at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And I have 3 players now,
Ooh, filling up
which is
fast.
very nice. On my maximum tickets, I have 1 seat left. So there's 1 seat left. Hop in if you want.
Well, there you have it,
You've already
folks.
played that adventure. You can't play, but other people can jump
Yeah,
in.
I was gonna say I'd jump in there, but I'd already know what was going on, and that wouldn't be as fun. So
It's a good time. So
well, cool. If you have not played Sentinel Comics, this is your mandate to sign up. Take that last seat in Wes's game and play because it's awesome. It's a fun time, and you can do wacky, zany superhero things. So yeah, see you
absolutely.
at Crit.
Absolutely. See you there, folks.
Mirage. Confused by your surroundings, you awaken on the plane of wind, clutching in your hand a scroll of Mage Hand. On the horizon, a black rider gallops straight for you holding a magic orb. Surely your death is imminent, but before the rider reaches you, you spot a stairwell descending through the earth. Desperate, you charge for it, but in your haste, you drop your family heirloom. What powerful item have you just left for your enemy?
I'd have to say let's go with the Dagger of Shadows.
The dagger of shadows falls to the sand, and the rider's faceless hood turns, gleaming at it. Stumbling down the stairwell, you fall for what seems an impossible eternity, until at last you lay broken at the door of the dungeon. The door creaks on its hinges open, and there, huddled in the darkness, is none other than Phil. What final words do you leave for Phil?
The shadows will be alive if you're not careful.
With your final words, the door creaks close in darkness. What's going on, Mirage? It's good to have you here. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
What is one of your favorite monsters you've ever encountered in a role-playing game?
Favorite monsters. I did once send a upgraded version of a Tomb Guardian inside the Tomb Annihilation against my party once. That was fun.
Ooh, any special abilities or anything that made it particularly interesting?
It had a 7-foot claymore, and it could see a person's pulse. So to fight it, you had to basically use sound.
Okay, interesting.
If you couldn't block out its senses, it was going to kill you.
Okay, I've not played that one, but it's always been interesting to me.
So I had full 6x4-foot maps of the whole tomb.
Oh wow!
So the look of the party's opinion when they watched the whole tomb sprawl it across our table was the silence was perfect.
There's something that's just really fun about throwing out like a massive dungeon map, or like, if you're lucky enough to have like a dwarven forge or something like that, and just putting it in front of your party and seeing their expressions. So, do you have any adventures that you're particularly excited to run for Crit?
Yes. At least 2 of my adventures will be an index card, and one will be inside of Wink or The Waste is Not Kind.
Ah, the waste is not kind. Someone was telling me about this, and I actually Googled Wink RPG, and let's just say it didn't give me what I was looking for.
Yeah, I remember actually doing that search. The results were hilarious, actually.
Yeah, that was not what I was expecting. So I was like, I've clearly done the wrong thing here, and that's when you were torn told me that it stands for the waste is not kind.
Yeah. Well, Wink is a variation of index card of its own.
Right, yeah.
My Fall of the King one is actually using my custom setting that I'm actually creating right now. Going on 3 years into design, so it's a work in progress.
Yeah, we all got one of those, right, sitting on the back burner. I was going to ask you what type of GM you are, but it sounds like that you're probably the kind that likes to world build.
When I can, yes.
Yeah, that's always the struggle, right? With like, if you're running at a con or a one shot, it's like, sometimes world building takes a bit of a backseat to making sure that the story is concluded in a nice 3-hour mark. Well, okay, so this brings me to another question, which is, were you the first game master in your group, or did you have a game master that taught you kind of how to play and things like that? And if so, in what way did they impact you and your style as a GM?
I did have one initially. They were kind of on the lines of I knew him only for a short time just because of a unfortunate medical condition. He just wasn't here to play longer.
Gotcha.
But in the short time I knew him, he revolutionized my way of looking at the game. And I tried to look at whenever I'm in a tight spot, I think what would he do since he was a bit more balanced than my first GM.
Yeah, it's always good to have like examples. I think you learn a lot from your game masters, things that you enjoy doing, things that you might do differently. They definitely teach us in a way mold where we end up with our own styles.
No, I fully believe that. To be a GM, it's the eternal hunt for that perfect moment.
Yeah. We're always trying to beat our last game and raise the stakes and, make everything more intense, more exciting, go even further. But, that's the fun of this hobby. There's always new territory to tread, new things to try. And how many games do you plan to run for Crit?
Just 3. If I wasn't going camping for our long weekend up here, I'd gladly play more.
So outside of Crit, is like ICRPG your go-to game, or like are there any other games you've been kind of jamming on lately and playing or running?
I mainly swapped over to Index Card RPG after that whole OGL debacle all those years ago. I was already kind of moving over to Index Card as I was phasing 5e out. Like I knew about Index Card 6 months after my campaign started. I was past the point of no return. That's what bothered me.
Yeah. I've done that before though, where you're like, hey, we're gonna try to keep the same story and characters, but let's shift systems. It seems like you guys aren't having fun with this. I'm gonna change things up.
Oh yeah, but I do have like PDFs for a bunch of other other types like 13th Age and stuff like that I can dig into if I ever want to. I might look into Crown and Skull when budget's more affordable for that one, but
It's a cool game. It's really different. I wanted to run some Crown and Skull this year, but it just wasn't in the cards. I might try it next year, next crit, but yeah, it takes a little bit of a mentality shift to run Crown and Skull, just a little bit. You got to start thinking in attrition terms. Well, since you are a tinkerer of games, here's a bit of a different question for you. What is an underrated rule or mechanic from any TTRPG that you think more folks should use?
I'd probably say Madness. Fear's another one, but those are both highly underutilized.
Yeah. What is it you like about like Fear and Madness specifically?
Just because you can kind of ratchet the dial up bit by bit as the game goes on. You could maybe get 1 point of madness here, 1 point here, and then by the time you get to the end, you may reach a psychotic break before the campaign ends or the session ends, and then you have to play as a character that's lost their mind.
Now, I do like a game that has like sort of different dials you can turn to add tension, other than just like you take damage to your HP. It's nice when there are different methods to really like add intensity to a situation.
Oh yeah, so I've got status conditions, I've got different monster abilities like traits. So there's a dozen. It's kind of in some ways Monster Hunter meets 5e meets Index Card.
Okay, that's quite the combo.
Because some monsters are specifically meant to have a core weakness. If you don't use it, you may as well just be using sticks and stones to fight them.
Yeah, that makes me think. Something that I don't see in enough role-playing games that I really love is that sort of like Zelda-style boss battle where there's a weakness and you kind of have to suss out what it is mid-fight, and then you start having to hit that monster in the weakness to really deal damage or make an impact. I wish that was in more games.
I've got a system I've been brainstorming for the last 3 years. I want to put it on paper. I call it the Titan system in my own head. Whatever, instead of having, say, hearts or HP, there's a specific number of hits required, but you have to do certain things to require it to have a hit succeed.
Yeah, keeps it interesting, changes up the flow of combat, makes you think outside the box a little. That's cool. Well, before we go, do you have any games that you're trying to fill up seats on? Is there anything you're particularly excited about that you just want to do a quick shout out?
The two that are still not even started to be filled yet are the Mad Mage's Tower and Fall of the King.
Go check out Mad Mage's Tower and the Fall of the King. Well, that's it for Mirage, and we're going to move on to our next game, but remember to game at crit.
And if I say anything, one more shout out just for the Battletech lover of me. If I could be in those games, I'd play in a moment. I'd play in a heartbeat.
Well, that's a perfect segue to our next guest, which is Phil, who's running those Battletech games. Phil, you awake to the sound of another poor soul falling through the trap stairwell. To your horror, it's the body of Mirage, clinging to a scroll of mage hand. The exact shape of the recess in the ancient stone door is the shape of the scroll in his hand. You place the scroll in the nook and the door slides open, revealing a mound of treasure and powerful magic items. You hear a voice that echoes through the chamber. Choose wisely, for that which you claim, your foe will retain. What kind of magic item do you grab?
Oh, I feel like I'm a terrible choice for this. Is Mirage alive?
Yes,
Important
Mirage
questions.
is alive, but just barely.
Okay. Magic items. This is my worst question because I would say I'm pretty boring with this. It would either be the flying rug or a potion of poison.
As you're contemplating your choice, you hear the last words of Mirage before he goes unconscious. He says, "If you're not careful, the shadows will take you." And then he passes out.
Well, may the light guide your soul through the darkness to the final resting place.
Now the door slides shut behind, and the two of you are trapped in this room.
Yes. I'm going to go with magic carpet.
The magic carpet whisks your friend up off of the ground, still unconscious, and you feed a potion to Mirage. And then that's where we will leave things for the next guest.
Done.
We'll see what happens.
Duh.
You mentioned Iron Sworn?
Yes.
That's a mostly solo game, right?
It's primarily solo. However, on the back of the tin, when you read the book of the book, it says it's primarily solo, can be for co-op games or a group guided game, meaning you can do like solo, duet, or a GM-less kind of game where everybody's taking turns answering questions. I do that, but I usually turn into the game master while also playing because I'm trying to teach people the idea and get them comfortable to the idea of like no one is answering the questions. We're all answering the questions.
Yeah. What outside of Crit, what games have you kind of been jamming on lately?
So I have 2 steady groups, one that meets monthly, and then another one that is entirely dedicated to nerds who've been doing this for 10 plus years. The dedicated group that meets every week is playing Shadow of the Weird Wizard. They've been trying to find a D20 analog that's similar to that 5e, but not necessarily 5e, so we're not feeding the corporate monster machine, but also still enough player crunch and choice to have fun. Shadow of the Weird Wizard has a ton of choice. You start off with four classes, then you get to novice or you start with novice, then you go to like expert, and then you have like 50 things you can choose from. So you can start as a priest and then go like fighter or fully magic or like whatever. And then there's other paths on top of that you can choose and then mix and match them and stuff. So you could have like a priest fighter druid or something like that and be completely busted. But as long as like the game master is playing along with you and is willing to work with your weird concept and not just murder you on the onset, it works out fine.
That's for some reason to me that's like very JRPG where you have like your main class and then eventually you pick your subclass and then it creates this whole new sort of style of play as you build it.
When you talk about that makes a lot of sense because these guys they're not JRPGers, but they do like their anime. They like WoW, they like Final Fantasy, they like Diablo and all that stuff, and it's just like that's their jam.
Yeah, every now and then those are at my Barnes and Noble, and I always look at them and I think, I don't need another fantasy game.
Yeah, I wish that sci-fi could just take off and be cool, but I get it. Like, I have my own opinions on why fantasy is cool. I think it's something that we know. It can be cozy, but it's not like downright depressing all the time because we're living in a post-utopian future, all that jazz and stuff like that. But we can make it be bright and hopeful, pastel colors and all that stuff. But deep down underneath, there's the dark secret that you're working to uncover and bring to the light.
Well, I think that's why maybe I'll eat my own words here in a few years, but I feel like sci fantasy is taking off right now. That's why like you see so many games that are blending them, even if it's just a little. Like even think like the new Crown and Skull book, right? Like Volume 2 has quite a bit of like sci-fi elements and you know, you're gonna say something.
No, you can keep talking.
I was just gonna say I don't know if this will influence it, but I don't know if you've ever read any Brandon Sanderson stuff, but I feel like his trajectory, he's always wanted to be a sci-fi writer, and I think his trajectory is to be sci-fantasy. So I think the next slate of books that he releases are going to be mostly sci-fantasy.
I do like Brando Sando. I do think that some people love the Cosmere. I think some people hate the Cosmere.
Oh yeah,
and I haven't met anybody who just don't care. It's one or the other. I'm
actually that one who doesn't care.
Oh, wow.
You finally met one. I am the neutral person who's just like, I got tired, I got bored of Marvel and all the interlinked fantasy worlds. And so I'm like, whatever, don't do it too much. If it's there, that's fine. I don't care. I'll read the books as if they were standalones and I'll just enjoy them for what they are.
Yeah, for me, the Stormlight Archives being my first foray into it, when he was like, the Cosmere, I was like, whatever. I guess that's your multiverse?
Yeah.
Whatever. But I have Mistborn. It's on my shelf. I haven't read it yet.
All right, before we get too stuck on...
Oh, I have one more game table that I wanted to tell you about before we also get on that. My Friday group is playing in Old School Essentials. I kind of rolled the map out on the table. I said, these are the world events. you guys have so much time before this happens, and then we're going to make it up as we go. And they're like, that sounds cool. And I'm like, yeah. It took me a while to get used to their desires because my first game that I ever ran for them was a galactic sandbox. And I said, here's the galaxy, adventure, go do stuff. And they were just kind of like, okay, what do you want us to do? And I'm like, and then I waffled for like 4 sessions and I was like, you know what? I have no idea what I'm doing. And then 5 years later, I finally come back and now I'm kicking butt.
Hey, I'll let you in on a little secret, all you newbie GMs out there. None of us know what we're doing. We just fake it till we make it.
Yeah.
But this leads me to a good question. I think I know what kind of a game master you are, Phil, because I've played in a couple of your games. But for our folks listening who might be interested in Crit, what kind of a game master, what sort of like title or role do you often fall under?
So Crit is a special case because if I know it's going to be a one-shot, and even though my Crit sessions are a miniature 5-session campaign, they're effectively one-shots that affect each following one-shot. At least that's how I'm thinking about it. Because I'm trying to follow the index card RPG method of only playing one session. So like each session has a goal in mind, but for whatever's going on, I don't have like a story for that. So it depends on like, I give you the goal, I give you the obstacles, and here's your layout. What do you want to do? But for like at home games, that's a little bit more of a slow boil and stuff. I'm still trying to get better about not necessarily being like, oh, wait until the 3rd session and you're gonna find out this huge reveal, because like who knows if we're gonna make it that far. And I've been trying to get better about that. And this last session, I kind of blew out a whole bunch of stops, and people are like, "Whoa, a Kraken! Holy buckets!"
No, that's yeah, no, you're right. It's hard to really pull that off in a con style. And if I remember right, you're doing like a battle tech, so you are going to build with each one. Is that right?
Yes. So the little intro primer for the new players. You're going to be mercenaries working to repel the Draconis Combine from invading the Rosselhog Free Republic's border space. However, you don't have anything on your ship, so you have to commandeer a ship, and then you have to get your vehicles, get your airplanes, get your mechs, and then we'll see what happens.
If I am not running at the same time that you are, I might have to join that because I've been jonesing for some kind of a mech game lately.
So I also got to preface this for all my BattleTech nerds out there who are hardcore classic BattleTech people. This is not going to be the highly technical, highly detailed, simulaic version of BattleTech. It's going to be very cinematic. It's going to be more MechWarrior-esque, cinematic, people running about and soldiers taking on 100-ton mechs and stuff. But I think it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll be interesting. I haven't seen too many people use the index card RPG vehicle chunks stuff very often, or at least I haven't played any of their games.
Yeah, I actually listened to the episode where Hanker and Fernell talks about the chunks, and I was like, this is such a cool like concept for vehicles, or like whatever mounts, spaceships, whatever it ends up being. I really liked it.
You can also use it in the adventure. I guess it's an adventure anthology. It's the Index Card RPG Adventure Collection, because he took like all of his stuff from like Core 2E, all of his Patreon stuff, mushed it into a PDF and said, "Here you go." But one of those, that the big bad guy has chunks on him, so it's like a big bad dude who has like he's obviously got 5 or 6 hearts, which is 60 hit points. And as you whittle down those 10 points or target certain body parts, you can remove functionality by taking out that chunk. And it's kind of cool.
That's funny that you should mention that specifically, because when I was just talking to Mirage a minute ago, I was talking about how more games need mechanics where you can like sort of whittle away at the boss, or you have to hit the weak spot like Zelda style. I just love stuff like that.
I want to say Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition had a mechanic like that. It was the bloodied condition. Here are the giant audio air quotes. But the White Hack was the most recent book that I read that had, they called it phases. So the author, Christian, now I don't know his name.
Book writer.
Yeah, Christian book writer. But
that's something else.
Yeah, not this. He goes by White Hack on Discord. But it has phases, and after you hit so many hit points, the monster or the enemy is supposed to like morph into my final form or whatever, and then you can swap out like these abilities for these abilities and stuff like that, and he calls it macros or templates and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love stuff like that. I feel like, you know, not to disparage any certain specific games that will go unnamed, but you know, we get in these mindsets in role-playing games that everything is just a hit point battle and it's just punch, punch, punch until the other guy falls down. And I just really love any kind of mechanic that shakes up that formula and forces you to sort of think outside the box or react differently or just play differently.
So something somebody told me at one point in Discord was, I think it might have been the Merlitron, Sam. He said something about, "Are you using the terrain?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." So, like, even in a 2D flat terrain, I was like, "This is a pillar." The monster goes up the pillar and like, "Whoa, we can do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can fly." So I've been trying to like find not necessarily like 3D terrain per se, but more like isometric maps or 2.5D isometric maps. So that way it gives you the illusion that there's verticality and things you can jump on and stuff. So trying that out, I found some cool pictures online. Had them printed out through Walgreens, and we're gonna see how that plays out.
Well, cool. Let's do one last question for you, which will be, you know, you've got five BattleTech sessions that are all sort of linked. Now,
Yes.
can folks join in at any of them, or are they going to have a much better experience if they start at the beginning and end at the end?
I would like people to play all 5 sessions, but that's a fever dream. If you can show up to one, that's great. As long as I have one player, I will make it happen. But all the sessions are loosely interlinked. I do have pre-gens that I am making that fit the 5-man band, so I have 10 pre-gens that are like the leader, and then 2 different styles of leader. So you got like the hopeful guy and then the moody broody guy. So like Captain America versus Iron Man. And then each session is slightly related in that when you get equipment and stuff from the first session, it carries over to the second session. And it's all supposed to build up to the end. But you don't have to do the first session to play the 5th session. It would just help a little bit, that I think. I mean, I would like to have people.
And I'll just say personally, if you do end up playing in a game and you're the only one playing with Phil, it'll still be a good time because I played in a game. We ended up kind of doing a co-op thing, but it was a lot of fun. So don't be pushed away if you're the only one that looks like they've signed up.
So my first year, I ran 12 games, and I ran my last session was a player's choice. And the whole idea was that I wanted nothing to do before, like no one would know anything. We come in and we say, this is our genre, setting, location, obstacle, and you pick a goal. And then we just roll with it. And I think that's how Sticky got into the whole thing, because he played in one of my games. He's like, I want to do an aliens thing. And I was like, okay, perfect. I got the assets. Let's do it. And we rocked it, and he loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah, not everyone can pull that off. So props to you, because that takes a special set of skills.
Last year, my player's choice game turned into a Crown and Skull game because the player was like, I don't want to play Index Card RPG. I want to play Crown and Skull. I was like, fine, I got the book. Let's do it. And then we whipped out the North Holds, rolled some hex rolls, and we made a story.
Nice. Thanks for being on here, Phil. It's awesome talking to you. We've played a few games together, and I can vouch for Phil as a game master. So go check out his games, and let's move on to our next guest. Skippy, you turn the key to the chamber on the deepest floor of the mountain keep. The lock clicks and the chains withdraw, opening the room beyond. You reach down for your trusty weapon. What weapon do you hold?
I hold a ceremonial sword from my family, my father's sword, obviously, and his father's before him.
Is there anything about the ceremonial sword that stands out, like a mark on it or maybe a symbol?
It's got it's a very plain blade and a plain handle with a single small jewel in the pommel. that glints in the light, but it's not ostentatious. It's not fancy. It's just a reminder of the power of beauty.
Mm. As you hold aloft your heirloom of a sword, the door shuts behind you and you see a form emerge from the darkness. A rider as black as shadows, its eyes red beams in the night. It holds aloft a dagger, also made of shadow, and points it towards you with a screech like shattering glass. You attack with your ceremonial sword, but your weapon finds no purchase on the specter. But as your eyes peer through its translucent form, you see something you hadn't noticed a moment before. 3 spectral chests, one red as flame, another blue as the sea, and a third as green and deep as spring. You have only time to open one chest. Which do you choose?
Green.
Green. You open the chest, and inside, a staff of vines grows right before your eyes. You grab it, and your head spins wildly as the world lurches beneath your feet. You hear a loud plop as you vanish through the ether. Welcome, Skippy, to the
Hello.
Quantum Ogre Cast. We're so glad to have you here. Yet another of our Crit founders. You actually hold a special place among guests here because you're one of the folks that you're the reason that Crit exists, or you're part of the team that made Crit a thing. So glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for setting this up and doing this.
Yeah, it's been super fun getting to meet everybody. Some people I knew from just different walks of life. Phil's very active in my Discord. I know Wes, have played games with him, and some of the other guys too. But yeah, this is the first time I'm actually getting to meet you. So what's your favorite role playing game?
Oh boy, that's the tough question, isn't it?
Not divisive at all.
No, of course not. My favorite role playing game is the next one I'm going to play.
That is the right answer, actually.
Yeah.
I made a joke post the other day, and it was a picture of Cairn 2E and Lancer, and I just said, there are 2 wolves inside me. And it was just a picture of those 2 games, because I'm like, I want to play both of these so bad for different reasons. So I totally feel that. Yeah, it's whatever the next game is. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Any game is better than no game. The stories we tell are more important than the box we purchase or the book we're using. That's
absolutely
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, is there one you're like gearing up to run, or that you're currently running that's been a lot of fun?
Yeah, I'm running EZD6 Wasted World with my friends at home right now. Super fun. This is our second foray into EZD6. We did traditional EZD6 Fantasy, a short game of that. We're doing Wasted World now, having a really good time. We've played my home group. We've did ShadowDark. We've done Index Card RPG. We've done Altered State. We tried a little bit of Shadowrun 2E, which was a hoot. We did.
I've only heard rumors about that game. I've not tried it, but apparently it's quite crunchy.
Yes. Yeah, and we played that after having played a pretty long run of index card RPG, so it was a big switch for our brains to go back to like calculating and manipulating and dealing with all this stuff. And I played a troll, and I was pissed off as a player because the movement rules say that trolls don't get to move as far as human beings, which is
bummer.
Dumb. I'm a 7-foot guy with like a huge stride, but I can only go 25 feet, but the human can go 30. What's that all about?
It's funny you should say that. I always make giants have like 40 feet. If like the normal's 30, I always give them a little more because they're big.
That's right. I'm 6'6" in real life. So like this spoke to me. All my friends are much shorter than me. I definitely have a longer stride and can go farther than them in the same amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also like, I'm of the mindset when it comes to game design, give a player more. Don't take things away. Like no one wants to be in old school games like a dwarf or a halfling because you get like 20 feet of movement. And like I get it. But like make the baseline 30 for everybody, and then do something special if you're like a tabaxi or a giant or something, instead of the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, there certainly can be fun in the limitations.
Sure.
There can be, that's where the interesting stories occur, is what you can do with what your impediments are, what you've got available. But yeah, like in terms of mechanically, also like tracking movement, I think is dumb and a waste of time overall.
Yeah.
You telling me I can run 29 feet but not 31? Come on now.
We could do a whole podcast about people just asking, like, how big is the room? And you're like, okay, what are you trying to do?
That's right. Yeah.
Like, what's your intent here? Because
Oh,
just
no, you're one step short. You can't do the thing you wanted to do. Sorry.
yeah, that's no fun. Yeah. No, I feel you. That's the beauty. I think we've had a lot of advancements over the years in game design that have
Mhm.
really moved the hobby forward in a good way. Like you're saying, I do enjoy limitations to a certain extent. Like I got to play a short campaign of I want to say I'm probably going to butcher this. I want to say it was advanced AD&D and
Okay.
it was in Dark Sun, and I really did
Mm.
enjoy the limitations of like I can only play these classes because I'm this race, and I only rolled a 12 intelligence, so I ain't being a wizard.
Yes, sir.
I'm probably gonna be like a thief or a fighter or something or a pit fighter
Mhm.
in that one. But yeah, there's a lot of fun in being bound by the rules to a certain extent, and having to try something new, or almost like
Right.
being forced into a certain direction and trying to be creative within those confines.
Right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's where the real creativity is bred in terms of what you can do with what you've got. How do we get creative and think outside the box? How do we do something that's unexpected? Or how do we lean into our flaws? How do we play the character flaws to make the role playing dynamic really rewarding for the party? Right? It's not just for me. Like um, we was trying to think of some good examples. I typically tend to play the goody two shoes. If there's a paladin, I'm probably going to play the paladin. I love I'm just lawful good's easy to play for me.
Yeah.
But I recently played a little one shot where I rolled we played Cairn 2E, and we rolled up our character traits, and I was greedy,
Mm.
and that was new to me, and it felt awkward to lean into
Greedy
that,
is
but I chose to do it. I prized the gem off the wall of this ancient room that set off the hidden magical trap and activated the golem. And so while my party was fighting the golem, I was probably taking more gems out. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna do this. We'll see what happens. It was super fun. We ended up having a really really great session. It was super fun and entertaining. Like again, like playing into that. Okay, I'm greedy, but I'm not a jerk. I'm not abandoning the
yeah.
party. Eventually, I'll get around to helping them. But there's a couple more gems I'm gonna get here.
Yeah, there's certain prompts like that, like greedy, that can be like hard to role play in a way that's really positive for the rest of the group.
Right,
But
right.
you can do it. You can have fun being an evil, quote unquote, air quotes, evil character and still get along with everyone in the party and have your own sort of goals and motives. But yeah, you got to think a little harder about it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, have your fun, do your thing, but don't take away from what the party is trying to accomplish as a whole. Don't undercut. Don't steal from the party members. And unless maybe you guys adjudicate all that ahead of time, like that, that's okay. You're down for that. But if you didn't talk about it, like, no, we're still a team. This is still a team sport. We don't really quote unquote win the game if we have a TPK because I was out abandoning the party because I wanted to get a couple more gems. Like, if I was on the other side of that, that would not be fun for me. I wouldn't enjoy that. So I don't want to do that to the team.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely a session zero kind of conversation, where you establish all those lines and you're like, yep, no PvP, we're not stealing from each other, we're not
Right.
withholding loot, but role play your characters how you want and have a fun time with it.
Yeah,
For sure.
that's right.
I know I know you're not running any games this year, but are you playing in any?
Not currently. There's some great GMs. I would love to watch them operate, and I'd love to be a player at their table. So I'll probably be like maybe a late addition to round out a table if there's one that has some space. But I want to make sure I don't abuse my privilege here to claim a space where a new player. Because the whole point of Crit is to get more people playing more games.
Yeah.
Right. This is a real low friction way to play a game you've never played before, maybe a system, and I don't want to deny that to someone if there's a risk of that. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to look at it, because it gets time for the deadline to start showing up, and you see 3 out of 4, or 4 out of 5, whatever, and you're just like, sure, I'll jump in Phil's game and see
Right.
what this
That's right.
BattleTech thing's all about. And, you never played that game, so that sounds like an interesting one. But cool. Well, I don't want to keep you too long, but I was going to ask. So you've been involved with Crit is this your second year?
This is the third year. So
Third, okay.
it was Runejammer
Right.
2023 was just the first one. Then it was Runejammer 24 was last year. And this year we've expanded the scope and rebranded to the community run Infinite Tabletop to Crit. So this is the third year. The first 2 years I did run games and I ran Orville's Tower for Index Card RPG both times. That's just such a fun session. It's such a great game. If you've never played Index Card RPG, it's a great intro. So I really wanted to give that opportunity to folks, and it was a hoot. We had a great time all the way around.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I can imagine that even just orchestrating an event of this size, this magnitude, is quite the undertaking. So props to you for just doing what you do and being involved and supporting this thing and getting, like you said, getting more people at the table trying new games, because really that's what it's about. So
Yeah, thanks, man. We hope, it's kind of a stretch goal of ours. I don't know that we'd ever be able to quantify that we hit it, but certainly one of our goals is that more folks do stuff like this. We
yeah,
want to kind of demonstrate, like, yeah, you can set up a little, because it all started out like just a pop up, like, hey, let's play some games. And then we put a little structure and formality around it, and now we've got it, 3 years running. We got a couple hundred games played under our belt. We would love to get more people doing this in a regional or topical or time zone based or something. Just make it easier, break down those barriers, build new friends, and get a chance to play games outside of the norm.
yeah, absolutely. And just, as a testament to what you guys have done, I was in last year's con, and it was the first time I ever got to play Crown and Skull.
Oh,
And
nice.
Tater was my GM, and it was awesome time. And I
Yeah,
really enjoy that game. It's so different. It
100%.
really unlocks something in my brain, and I had a great time playing in games with Tater and some of the other players and stuff. But yeah, definitely, if you're out there listening and you haven't signed up for a game yet, do it, because you're gonna have a good time. You're going to get to try new things, like we're saying, and why not? You can sit at home like me in my closet and talk to some great folks and role play, and it's free, so you have no excuse.
All the GMs are competent and skilled and creative and clever and good natured. They are supportive of the players. They are the players' allies and advocates, even as they're throwing wave after wave of torment at them. Um, the thing for me, it's hard to capture. Right? Like last year and even the year before, I'm riding a wave of high after each game. Just really
Yeah,
excited. The energy is high, the enthusiasm, the teamwork, we're all patting each other on the back for doing a great job at the individual things that we all did, and that's just so fun and so addictive. And I haven't found anything to replicate that. So yeah,
yeah.
the stakes are low. A couple hours out of your life. If you're afraid to talk to people, afraid to meet new people, I get it. It's one of the reasons why this is all virtual as opposed to in person. Cameras are optional. You don't have to be on camera. You're just going to chat with some people, and they're going to support you 100%. And every idea you have is a good idea. So let's rock and roll and have a great time.
That's absolutely right. Well, thank you so much for being on here, Skippy. You
Yes,
heard it
sir.
here, folks. The stakes are low, the games are fun, and it's free, so you have no excuse. We'll see you at Crit. Karl, I'm going to do this one just a little different. Here's a question for you. What is your favorite pub or restaurant that you've ever been to?
Wow. I think it's I'm going to go with the Chapels. It's a local pub here, which is part of a brewery. Basically, there's a whole complex with a brewery in there, and then they've got a couple of restaurants, and this pub just sits at the top of it.
And this is in Malta, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Karl, you awake on the floor of the chapels, surrounded by your fellow GMs. You have the faintest memory of a strange dream involving a mountain, a dark lake, and a rider in black, and for some reason, a displacer beast. You wipe the drool from your face and shrug the memory out of your head. Jorben pulls up to the chapel in his 1981 silver DeLorean and shouts, "Hey, we getting together to grab some food after Crit or what?" You nod in approval, and he drives off into the sunset. But as you watch, a chill runs down your neck, and you turn to see a strange shadow lingering in the door of the chapel. As quick as it appeared, it's gone, leaving you wondering what you'd seen at all. Shrugging it off, you remember that crit is right around the corner and you've got planning to do. All right, that was a silly little way to try to tie everything in. Actually, we ended up having to cut like one of the people out. It didn't work out for them to be here. So anyway, it's good to have you, Karl. I'm glad to have you back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. Let's start off with a fun question. What is something in the TTRPG hobby that's really grabbed your attention lately or got you excited? And this could be a concept or a specific system, really anything.
Okay, I'm going to go with the concept of rules-light systems in general.
Light, speaking my language.
Yeah, I mean, reason being mostly is that, I mean, look, I've been playing TTRPG since 1996, and especially early on, I don't know if it was because I was younger or just because I wasn't exposed to so many games or whatever. It was like, yeah, more complex rules would mean more realistic simulation, etc., etc. But I mean, last several years, actually, I'm more like, okay, we can actually simplify the rules a lot and get a really good story out of this. We don't need to simulate everything.
Yeah, and I agree there. Streamlining the process is the way I like to think of it, because you can still have a lot of the concepts, you can still have a lot of the same kind of fun without just a little bit less of the like rules referencing and things like that. Just a little bit more adjudicating on the fly and simplified systems that are easy to remember.
Oh, for sure.
I think I've asked this in just about every interview at this point, but along the same lines. What's an underrated rule or mechanic from any TTRPG that you think more folks should know about? Yeah, I know that's broad.
Yeah, it's super broad, but okay, what I would go for is failing forward. Again, it's more of a concept than a rule.
Yeah.
But I've seen too many games where, something is locked behind a skill check, players can't get into it, and then the GM is just like, okay, I have no idea how to make this progress now. Whereas if you play with the idea that, okay, ideally you'd never lock vital information behind the skill check. That's something that you should plan for beforehand. But if you just play with the idea of failing forward, whatever happens, it can just make the game develop that little more quickly.
Yeah, I agree. And different games have handled it different ways over the years. You have like your Powered by the Apocalypse where there is failing with a setback. And then some games, they simply have maybe a lower curve so that if it's something your character should be good at, they're more than likely to succeed. And I've even just seen principles and stuff that say like, hey, if there's not an interesting outcome, don't make people roll at all. What's the reason? Yeah, go ahead.
Totally on board with that. It's like if you don't need to roll, don't roll.
Exactly.
If nothing better can happen, what's the point?
Right. Yep. If there's not a meaningful or interesting chance of something happening, then really you're just kind of wasting time. Yeah, I've definitely come around on like the failing forward. I do like when there's some player choice in that as well. Like you can succeed at this at a cost, but like, you're going to lose a piece of gear, maybe you'll burn all your abilities for that day or whatever. There's been some interesting things that have come along, some advancements I think in game mechanics that have made those decisions a lot more interesting and a lot more fun.
Well, I play a lot of EZD6, and basically the way that DM Scotty built that is that, okay, first of all, you've got the karma mechanic, which kind of, you can choose to add karma to your dice roll to succeed, or you can accept the failure and take karma, which is okay. It actually gives you a little bit of strategies, like I can choose to fail now and get more karma that will help me at a later stage on a dice roll, which might be more critical. Now, on the flip side of that, there's the stress system that he used for his upcoming horror setting for EZD6, and which I have been using in The Four Horsemen, which is my 30 Years War historical supplement for EZD6, which is stress. So basically, you can boost your dice roll, but if you take, using stress point, you take stress and you add points to the dice roll. But if you take too much stress, you're going to physically damage yourself. You're going to get hurt. So that changes the tone of the game quite a bit. Because I mean, you could push the dice roll, but it could kill you.
Yeah. I'm completely in agreement too. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of in DCC when you do spell burn or something like that. It's like, yeah, you're gonna push the number up just high enough to cast that spell or get that ability to come through. But man, it's gonna hurt later whenever you're just like, all right, my intelligence is 7 now. And every roll I'm making after this until I start to earn those points back is gonna hurt.
Speaking of spellcasting, I really, 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 really appreciate systems where magic does not just work. It's like where you have to roll for it, because that's something that never sat right with me. I mean, look, if you take a big club or a rock and you try to hit something with it, you have a chance of failure.
Yeah.
Yep. But again, in the dragon game, you can bend the fabric of reality to create an explosion with fire or lightning or whatever, and that somehow works every time. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I personally like an element of chaos in my magic. I go back and forth on this depending on the game because, like, you know, Knave and Cairn are some of my favorite magic systems, but I like them also because of the way the spells work in them. They're just more utility than anything else. But if I'm playing a game where like there's a lot of power behind the magic, like, actually Dungeon Crawl Classics is a great example. I love the element of chaos in it because not only can you just fail to roll, you can roll the worst version of like a magic missile that you've ever rolled, and it's just like a weak little shot, or you roll really high, you get let's say a D30 because you're scaling up the chain in that game, and you just have this explosion of magic missiles that hits every target in the area, and it's just complete chaos, and it makes it so much fun to me. I think personally, I like in a world when magic is chaotic, and that's why not everyone has like, it makes sense world building wise too. Like, this is why not everyone you meet is a wizard, because it is a dangerous art and it should be used very sparingly and carefully.
Oh, totally. And the flip side of that is that the more chaotic it is, if you're designing spells or whatever, the more juice you can put into them. I always like to take examples from Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Not my favorite system because it's fairly clunky, but some of the way that system meshes with the world building are really, 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 really well done. And that was going back from the first edition up to I believe, the fourth edition that is currently out now. Now, with Magic, there are some fairly powerful things apart from the utilities, but the thing is that Magic is always, always, always dangerous. I mean, literally, once you get a miscast, you can get anything from, I don't know, your eyes start glowing for a few minutes, or you could get literally turned inside out, or your character could literally disappear from the world.
Yeah. So, I've only looked at a little bit of that system, but I really like what you're saying about they like marry the lore and the magic together so well. It's just, it sticks out, and I've only read it once, but even like the way the different schools have different colors, and like the wizards have to wear those colors in order to make their power, like to increase the power of their spells and things like that. It's just their lore is top notch. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about an IP that has been around just a few years less than I have, so they've had plenty of time to get it right.
Absolutely. Well, cool. Karl, before we go, do you have an adventure that you are most excited to run for Crit?
Actually, I'm pretty hyped about all 3 of the games I'm running. Now, 2 of them I have already run before. That's The Pool of the Nameless Things and The Beast of Hamelin. And the reason I'm really hyped up about those is because every time I've run them, everyone always seems to tackle them in a different way. And it's always fun for me to see, okay, how will you guys get out of this? As opposed to the previous batch of guys or the previous batch of guys. Because I can tell you, they've always, all the parties that I've run through them have always found a way to, I didn't even think of that. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. The other one is Night of the Locusts. I've run a few playtests of that, but I have never actually run it in the wild, so to speak.
Yeah. I've got a few of those too. I want to touch back on what you were saying, because I think that's the mark of a truly great adventure, is that every time you play it, there's kind of a different outcome. And you, as the game master, get to also be surprised and enjoy what unfolds at the table. I think that's just a hallmark of like a really well-written adventure.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, I think it's important for us to, as GMs, to also have fun. I mean, like, GMs are players too, and keeping things interesting that way just helps the game not get stale. Because again, if you run the same scenario 10, 15 times, it's difficult to not fall into a routine.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of like fall back on our old usual kind of style of things. And, you know, I always make the joke that if I ever write an adventure, it's always a crypt and there's always a necromancer at the end of it, you know, because that's just where my brain goes. So that's why I like running other people's adventures, and I like random tables to mix things up. But yeah, all right. Well, thank you for being on here again, Karl. If you're listening out there and you still haven't signed up for Crit, it's the week of. So what are you doing? Go over there, check out the games, have some fun, roll some dice, and meet great, fun people like Karl here. So thanks for listening. Running through a dungeon, you come across the junction. You gotta go left or right. It doesn't matter what you choose, 'cause either way you lose. There's a Quantum Ogre just out of sight. And now it's coming to a head, the very thing you dread. You get ready for the coming fight. Your spells are waning fast, you hit them with your blast. It's the last flickering light. Quantum Ogre Cast, Quantum Ogre Cast, Quantum Ogre Cast, Quantum Ogre Cast.